Hey there, my name is Kelly Dale with Off the Beaded Path. Today I want to show you a brand new jewelry design that I call the Paisley drop earrings. So for this design, here's what you're going to need. You're going to need 1 gram of a size 11 Delica, 2 grams of a size 15 Miyuki seed bead. Now you can use Toho, but you will probably have to alter my bead counts on the back of this piece. You're going to need 2 14mm Rivolis, 2 Zoli duos each of the left-hand version and the right-hand version, and I'll explain more about that in a minute. You're also going to need 2 Hole Cabochons, 8 11 Demi Rounds. Now I tried this with size 15 seed beads and I did not like how it looked. The Demi Rounds are basically an 11/0 seed bead that they've cut in half. So it's very, very thin, but it's the perfect size to keep everything in order on the bottom of this earring. You're going to need a size 12 needle, 3 yards of thread, so 1.5 yards for each earring, and your desired ear hooks. So if you've never heard of a Zoli duo, what it is it's basically like a super duo. It has 2 holes, just like those. They're shaped like a Paisley, but they have a left-hand version and a right-hand version. So you can see here how these point one way and then these point the other way. These are domed on the top and then flat on the bottom. So that is what a Zoli duo is. So go ahead and get your materials together, and like I said, we're going to start out with 1.5 yards of thread on our needle. So the first thing that you'll want to do is start out by threading on 36 size 11 Delica beads. And then you're going to do 1 row of peyote stitch, and that's doing in the circular peyote. Now I've not showed that because I have showed that in my videos, gosh, for the last 12 13 weeks now. So this is what it will look like once you have your 36 beads and your 1 row of peyote. At that point, you're ready to use your size 15 seed beads for the encasement. So you're just going to and when I got to the end of the row, I stepped up by coming through the first bead that I added, which is this one here. Now I'm going to start the peyote stitch, so I'm going to pick up 1 15 and I'm going to go through the next 11 that's sticking up, and I'm going to do this all the way around, picking up a 15 and going through the next 11 sticking up. Now as you go through, make sure you pull this thread tight because you want this to dome as you work. So just keep going and adding your 15s in between your 11s. So once you've gone all the way around, this is what your piece will look like. I've added my last 15 here, and I've gone through the last 11/0 Delica for this round. So I'm going to step up by going through the first 15 that I added in this round. That's the very next bead. Now I'm going to do 1 more round of 15s, so that's just picking up a 15 and then going through the next 15 that I have sticking up. And as you do this round, pull very tight because you want these to really dome and cup itself so that we can, this will be the front of our encasement. So we really want this piece to lay down as we work. So continue all the way around, adding these rows of 15. And then when you get all the way back around, you are going to stitch through the beads to exit any of your upper 11s here on the bottom of the encasement. So once you've gone all the way around on the front and you have stitched to the back, this is what your piece will look like. Now, one quick word of caution, word of advice. I stitch very, very, very tightly. So what that means is these beads that I'm using here are a matte finish bead, and I actually ended up, this is the 3rd one of these I've made as far as samples, because if I am not careful, because my tension is so tight, my beads crack, like right there, it cracked. And I mean, I was already finished with the encasement. I was pulling it tightly. So just be aware to be very careful and not keep your tension too tight when you're using a matte finish Delica. But moving on, I'm going to pick up a 15 and I'm going to work a row of 15s, just putting in a 15 and going through the next 11. Now you don't want to pull this super tight, pull it enough to where it kind of starts giving it a curve, but we don't want to pull it super tight because we're not going to put our Rivoli into the next step, okay? So just go around putting in your little size 15 seed beads, and when you get to the end of the row, be sure and step up through the first 15 that you added in. So I've gone all the way around adding my row of 15s, and now I'm ready for my Rivoli. Today I'm using the Purple Haze in this particular sample. So I'm going to work and get that Rivoli pushed into place. And now I'm going to do another row of 15s. And this time, when you work this row of 15s, pull the thread really tight. Now I have people always ask me how I keep such a tight and consistent tension. The biggest thing that will help you when trying to keep an even, consistent tension is, as you can see, when I pull the thread through, I always pull it straight the way it's coming out of the bead. So many times as I watch people stitch, they're pulling the thread this way, that way, but if you will always pull the thread straight out from the direction of the hole, basically the way that you're sticking that needle through the bead, then you will get a good, tight, even, consistent tension each time that you stitch. And that is really, really helpful to some people. And if you watch yourself stitch, if you are a loose stitcher and you watch yourself stitch, a lot of the times that is the problem, is that you are pulling the thread away from the direction that it should naturally go. Like you're pulling down, you're pulling to the side, whatever. And that is, you know, a lot of people's problem when they're asking about tension and thread. So we're just going to continue working this round, and then I'm going to step up through that first 15 added in the round, which is going to be this one right here. Once I finish the round, this is what my piece will look like. Now, I'm going to show you a new quick and easy netted way to finish out the back of the piece here. So from where I'm coming out, I'm going to pick up 7 15s. I am coming out of this 15. I'm going to skip the next 15 that's sticking up, which is going to be this one, and I'm going to go to the next one. So I'm going to skip one and I'm going to go through one. Now, this is very important, the step. You need to go down through the next lower and upper 15 for this netting to work before you start the next step. If you try to add it right where you were coming out, your net piece is going to be too bunchy, and it's not going to look good on the back. So again, I'm going to pick up 7 15s. I'm coming out of this 15. I'm going to skip the next one sticking up and then go through the next. I'm going to go through the lower 15 and then the upper 15. And I'm going to continue to do this around the piece. Now, when I come back around and I've got my embellishments finished, I'm going to step up by going through the first 4 15s that I added in this set of 7. So I'm not counting the one that I'm coming out of here on the base. I'm going to just count 1, 2, 3, 4. So that I'm coming out of that point bead of that set of 7. So once you've gone all the way around and you've done your step up, your piece will look like a hot mess. But we're going to fix it. That's the good part. So I'm going to pick up 1 15 and I'm going to go through the middle 15 of that next set of 7, and you're going to pull that thread. So what's going to happen is it's going to make those beads lay down. Now 1 15 and go through the middle bead here of my next set of 7, and this is going to help pull all of these little netted pieces that we've just made. It's going to help them lay down flat against the Rivoli like we've got here. And just be sure that you're going through that middle bead. You'll be able to tell if you didn't because it won't look right. It'll look bunchy and you'll know. Now once I've gone around, I still have to finish one more bead, so I'm going to pick up one more, and I'm going to go through that first bead I started with, which is going to be this one here. Now I'm going to go through, kind of looks like a cool little starfish almost. So I'm going to go through these beads in the middle here again, not adding anything, just reinforcing them. And then I'm going to stitch around to the edge to where I'm exiting any single Delica bead row. Because as you can see, you have a single bead and then two, and then a single and two, and a single and two. So you want to come out of any one of those single bead Delica rows. I've got the front of the encasement done and the back of the encasement done, and now I'm ready to add my Zoli duos. Now as you can see, we've got our lefts and our rights, and I have them laid out exactly how I want to thread them onto the piece, because my thread is exiting to the left, so I need to pick these up in this direction. If your thread is exiting to the right, you will need to pick them up in this direction. And I am threading through the top hole. So what's in that little top curve of the paisley, that's the hole that I'm picking the paisleys up. So I'm picking two up in their direction. Then I am picking the other two up in the opposite direction, so that when you thread them on, they're going to look just like this. And oh my God, those are the cutest little beads I've ever seen. Okay, enough of mine. Okay, so we're coming out of this single bead Delica row. I'm going to come to the next single bead Delica row and skip it, and then I'm going to come through the next one. So I'm just going to go through this one here. Now, before I pull these beads all the way through, I'm going to go ahead and stitch to where I need to be, so that way you can see. So I'm just going to come through the Delica to the right, and then through the next single bead Delica row. And the reason I'm doing this is because once I pull this, those paisleys are going to pop up here, and you won't be able to see what bead that I'm actually going through. So pull, pull, pull until they pop up like this. And I think this is so cute because it looks like a little pineapple to me when you hold it like this, or a little cartoon character with funky little hair. But I am coming out of that Delica, and I'm going to go through the open hole of the paisley right where my thread is exiting. This is the outer hole. I'm going to pick up a Demi Round bead and go through the outside hole of the next paisley. Then I'm going to pick up a Demi Round, my 2 hole cabochon. Now, these do have 2 holes. We're only going to be using 1 hole. When you are wearing it, no one is ever going to see that second hole. If it just drives you up the wall, you can come around and put some 15s around the bottom of it to kind of decorate it. But I've also done a really pretty green and blue sample, and although it has that second hole, you really can't tell it as much as you could with this pink that kind of has the white in its hole. So that's the thing with this piece. So I've got my Demi, my 2 hole cab, and then my Demi. So I've got 3 beads, and I'm going to go through the outer hole of the next paisley so that those beads will pop right into place. If you use a size 15 seed bead, these beads here are going to be a little bit lower down. I'm going to pick up 1 more Demi, and I'm going to go through the outside hole of the next paisley to pull all of that together. Now I'm going to go through the single bead Delica row right here where the thread is at with my paisley. Now I'm going to go through that bead coming towards the beadwork that I've already added, and you will see why here in just 1 second. Because now I'm going to turn back around, and I'm going to come right back through all of these outer beads again so that it anchors the paisley beadwork to the embellishment, or my cabochon, Rivoli, whatever you want to call this thing. Oh my goodness, I'm getting so tongue-tied. But it will really anchor each side of the paisley to one of those Delicas, and it allows us to be able to come back and reinforce this bottom beadwork without having to go through this whole thing again. And if done correctly, what will happen is once we get back here to the other side, we will come through the single bead Delica row right at our Paisley, so that on each side of this Paisley embellishment, Zoli embellishment, we will have a thread on each side of this Delica and on each side of this Delica to really hold and anchor our Paisley Zolis there. Now we want to stitch up the way I'm holding it. We want to stitch up to the top so that we can add our little loop for the earring. Again, I'm going to do a single bead Delica row. So I'm going to come out of this bead up here at the top, just stitching through until I get to that one bead. So I've got my thread to where it's coming out here at that single bead Delica row. So I'm going to pick up 6 15s. And I'm going to come back through this same bead that I'm coming out of so that it makes a circle. So I'm going to come right back through just like that so that it makes us a little circle here. Now I'm going to go through and reinforce this. Now you can reinforce once, twice, whatever you want to do, completely up to you. But once you have it reinforced, however you'd like it, then I don't make an actual knot in this piece. And the reason I don't is anywhere that you make a knot, you're going to see it. So what I do is I try to lock the thread in place. So I come to a row, a 2 bead row like this. So I'm coming out of the bead to the right. I'm going to come up through my bead to the left and then back down through my bead to the right. So this kind of locks that thread that I'm using into place. And then I will stitch through several more beads here along the outer edge of my piece. And then I will trim the thread off. And of course, it's very essential that you get knots in it right here at the end, because why else would a project go perfectly? So then you can trim your thread and attach your ear hook. So let me grab my pliers here. I'm actually going to use a pair of antiqued copper ear wires for this one. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up the ear wire, attach it to my earring, to that top loop that I've made, close it, so that now I have my completed earring. And I can go ahead and make my second one, so I have a fabulous new pair of earrings. Now, if these are, you know, I love them as earrings, but some people could also put a ring on them and make them into a pendant, because these would be super, super cute pendants as well. So here are 2 color samples that I've already done. This is using the pink yarrow 2 hole cabochon, the sunset Paisleys, and the purple haze Rivolis. My 11-0 Delica is the matte copper, and my 15 is the muscat. Now over here I have a galvanized gold 11, a matte olive 15, an olivine Rivoli, jet AB for the Paisleys, and then an avocado for my 2 hole cabs. And then I have used my cinnamon bronze Demi Round for this one. And then I believe this one right here is, let me look here, higher metallic June bug is what these are here. They have that really cool kind of double AB finish like these do here. So I hope you enjoyed learning how to make these new Paisley drop earrings. One thing that I did want to correct for you is I checked back and I actually put here that you only needed 2 each. You're actually going to need 4 each of these Zoli duos for the left and for the right, because you want a pair unless you're making a pendant. So all of the beads, supplies, kits, patterns, everything that you'll need for this project can be found on my website, which is offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. Thanks so much for watching and have a great week. Bye-bye.